Hello everyone, Sarah here, and today we are going to be going over a lot of decks in Champions TCG. It's been about a week since the new set has come out, and we've gotten to see a good amount of the kind of metagame shaping up, and the types of decks that seem to be pretty strong and pretty playable. So I thought we'd jump into it and take a look at everything going on. First thing I want to show is the leaderboard that we have going on. A lot of the decks that I have here are taken from top 10 players. So this is just a nice shout out to Ben Stark, doing great, dominating the ladder, double B falling right behind, and I'm in third. And there are a lot of people, Rain, Kiki, a lot of strong players, Winty. I mean, I'm not going to keep naming every single player. Every single player in the top 10 is amazing. I even feel bad that I even started naming players now because I want to name them all. You know what I mean? But all right. So the first thing we're going to get into is Ben Stark's deck. So Ben Stark, currently sitting number 1 on the leaderboard. I asked him if he can share his deck list with me so I can highlight it. He said his list is constantly changing, but this is what he sent me. He's constantly changing different cards. And this is this list is really unique compared to what you see going around. A lot of players are kind of playing like the same. I mean, this deck is also playing a lot of similar cards, but there's a handful of things that you don't normally see, like the Thunderpurs. I think are really interesting. The Felatons you don't always see. Cinder Imp is definitely pretty unique. Hugin, nobody ever plays this card so far. I've seen it a couple times, but I think this list is really unique, and it clearly is working well for him. He's gotten himself into number 1 on the leaderboard. So I haven't given this list a shot. I should try it out at some point, but yeah. Definitely could be a strong list to look at. And actually thinking about it, what rares are in this deck? It's the Flora Dragon, which is pretty pricey. There is the Hugin, which isn't that much. The Bassvines aren't that much. The Astralings and the Sprigions, but I mean, you'll see as we go through this, every single deck has these Astralings and Sprigions. They're like the best 2-drops in the deck right now, and in a lot of ways they kind of define the format. And they make the format fairly mid-rangey. And we'll take a look later at this, but this is kind of some of the most common cards you're going to see in the format right now. But as we go through more decks, you'll see that being the case. Actually, this list is not playing a handful of the cards that I put on this page right over here. Let's go into the next list that we have to talk about. And now we have actually 2 lists by Double B. This was a list I wanted to highlight because this list over here, let me zoom in a little bit for you. This list over here is completely, has no gold cards whatsoever. It is really budget friendly. So I thought this was a great list to highlight. It is playing a lot of the Overwhelm cards, or not Overwhelm, Overcharge cards, Supercharge cards. Yeah, it's playing all the Supercharge stuff. And it's playing a ton of ways to greed up and just draw a bunch of cards. Double B said the list was pretty good. I wonder if he's going to continue to use this, or if he's going to use other things, because it's really impressive. This list has no rares. I think that's really cool. So definitely, if you're a new player, this is the list I would recommend the most for you to play if you're new to the game. And maybe there could be some up card upgrades you can slot in. I don't know. I haven't tested out the Supercharge deck yet much myself. It looks cool, but I haven't played it much myself yet. So I wouldn't know what changes to make. But this list right here seems really solid for sure. Definitely take a look at it. And here's some other lists that we have. I want to highlight the second list by Double B, since he is currently second place on the ladder, and we have 2 lists that we can look at from him. We'll just do full screen. So Double B is going to be here on the right side. And this list has, let's see, what unique things are going on in here. That we've got the Teals, which are pretty, I think Double B and Rain, I think, were the only players to play Teal. And I played against Rain in the tournament yesterday, and the egg was like nuts against me on turn 1. Just the pressure of being able to play the Teal, and then turn 2, whirlwind back whatever your opponent plays, and get the Abdallah in play. It's just a huge tempo swing on the first turn of the game. So these eggs can provide a lot of turn 1 pressure. Other than that, I think the Demothera is also a pretty rare card. It's definitely hard to come by, so not a ton of people are experimenting with it. I find it interesting that Double B is playing the Demothera and not like I mean, I guess he might not. I was gonna say and not the 3-mana one, but he might not have the 3-mana one, so that might be why he's not playing the 3-mana Raise Dead. I think that card is one of the strongest cards in the format right now, the 3-mana Raise Dead. But it's so rare that it doesn't make it into many decks at all. So I would say this list, it has a couple unique qualities, but otherwise it is using a lot of the standard package that we have covered here. And let's go over the standard package right now, actually. And that would be 2 Vroom, 2 Fuku, 2 Timberfawn, 2 Molturtle. Not every single deck will play 2 Molturtle, but a lot will. 2 Bubby, 2 Pukey, 2 Sprigion, 2 Astraling, 1 or 2 Chubwings, a Strawbash, and often the evolution of Strawbash as well, but I didn't put it on this list. The Barricane. In addition, you'll often see people play Elk Antler in their list as a 2 of. You'll often see people play 2 of copies of oh, not 2 of copies, but a 1 of copy of the evolution of Pukey. And then Sprigion and Astraling, the evolutions of those, people often play 1 copy of those, but not every deck will. But those are some of the cards you probably should look out for, I think, in a lot of these games. You'll see this core of cards in a ton of games. The more you start playing, the more you'll recognize it, and you'll see it a ton in games. And that core is also represented here. Now, Jacob Wilson actually has an incredibly interesting deck, and I played this list quite a bit, actually, over the past few hours tonight. And I find this list really fun to play. It's very aggressive. Having a full suite of 10 1-drops, or 9 1-drops, my apologies. But 9 1-drops, I didn't run the numbers on it, but you're very likely to have something to play on the early turns. Though Twig is really the only 1-drop you want to play on the first turn. You're not really going to be playing the Turbo, the Zapicide, or Vroom, or Fuku onto the board for no real value. And then you have a solid mid-range game plan with the Timberfawns, the Molturtles, the Bubbies, the Pukey, Sprigion, Astraling. Shadow Gaze, pretty unique choice here. It works really well for this deck because this deck is trying to grab the board. This deck also has a lot of numbers, a lot of damage being thrown around. You have Zapicide throwing around damage. You have Turbo throwing around damage. And it's all random damage. So the Shadow Gaze being a targeted deal 2, or not deal 2, but give something -2/-2, really helps patch up a lot of these random numbers being thrown around that maybe one doesn't quite go your way, but you can use the Shadow Gaze, or you can use what do you call it, the Craig. You can use stuff like that to clean up a lot of these numbers that might not go quite your way. And this deck just hits the board, it grabs the board very quickly, it keeps the opponent off the board, and it just beats the opponent down over the course of multiple turns. It's not super resilient to like multiple board clears, like multiple earthquakes, but it can fight through them for sure. This deck puts on a lot of pressure. Let's take a look at some of the next lists. So this is and a lot of these lists that we're going to be looking at now are from the weekend tournament. It's even got the date over here. This is I played against Magic Coom. We're playing against each other today, actually, later on. We played yesterday as well. He beat me yesterday in the 2-1 set. It was pretty close. We're playing pretty much identical decks. Before the tournament, I showed him this list. He asked for some help with the list, and I gave him this, and it seemed like it worked pretty well for him. Me, not as much, but the lists seem strong. The only difference between our 2 decks here is I have 2 Mysticonda, he has 1 Mysticonda and 1 Vilemoth. The Vilemoth is really strong for sure. Solid upgrade for the deck. And this list is, it's got a handful of clear, a handful of Earthquakes with 1 Tirok, one Tantruck, what do you call it? And then double Bassvine. You have a lot of the standard package as well that you'll see in a ton of decks. Oh, you know, I realized I didn't include Firon in the standard package. You'll see Firon a lot as well. One of my favorite cards in the current format. I think Combustion is incredibly powerful, even though it costs a bit of life. It's just so good at keeping the enemy board under control. Yeah, I think this list, it's got a lot of the standard package. It tries to top off with Mysticonda to go a little top end. And then this deck is playing 1 Jello and 2 Jelly. And the reason we're doing that is because I've identified a ton of decks are going to be playing the Updawa and the Elk Antler. And because those two cards are so popular, and Sprigion is in every single deck, which Hydroblast isn't amazing into Sprigion, it doesn't kill it, but it does do quite a bit of damage into it. Solid answer for sure. See, so I think yeah, I think these Hydroblasts, they can be pretty good in this format because there's just so many 7 health units being thrown around. Even the evolution of the Astraling you'll see in some decks. Maybe somebody's playing one here. Yeah, Rain is playing the Voidra. This card as well gets hit by the Hydroblast. So Hydroblast actually really good in this format compared to some of the previous formats we've had. Some of these next decks we have are going to be Rain and Hiryoku. So we'll go look through Rain's first. He is playing the Teal, which is really powerful. I think this egg tech is going to become more popular. I think these eggs are really strong. They got buffed significantly, so they can drop really big units out of the eggs now. With like a lot of the no-text cards, like Leo got added, which is like an 8/8 that can just drop out of this 1-drop. So it's just like those kinds of cards can like destroy your opponent in some situations, just off of the tempo. 2 Vile Grubs. I played against Rain yesterday and he beat me, and these Vile Grubs were huge in that he was able to get them behind a Timber Fawn. Like the Timber Fawn would die, it would put up two like taunt units, and you can't get through it, and you can't kill the Vile Grub. Put you in a lot of trouble. The Rain's list is pretty strong. I would recommend trying something out like this. I haven't myself, but I like a lot of the things going on. I like this. I like the Voyager Floor Dragon evolution line. I like the Elk Antler. I would like to see the evolution of Elk Antler as well, the Oak Warden. I imagine Rain just doesn't have it, because I would think it would make its way into this deck if he did have it. But I like this kind of toolboxy thing it's got going on here. As for Hiroku, this list is what looks to be like a fairly budget. Actually, is this the same list that we have for Double B? You know, I didn't notice that. I don't know if it's the same list. It's not the same list, because this one doesn't have the Mole Turtles, but it is very similar. This one also doesn't have the Mech Wings, so there are a handful of differences. But yeah, a fairly budget storm deck. What do you call it, dude? Overcharge, supercharge, dude. So many mechanics, so many mechanic names. Let's keep track of them all. But yeah, the supercharge units will come down, do tons of damage. You have the standard for the supercharged decks. A standard package is to have like all the card draws. So you have the Business, you have the Cream Puff, you have the Peloton, you have the Pukey, the Amy. This deck just is trying to maximize on just getting as many units or as many cards in hand, so they can just slam the Thunderilla, slam all these big units, and just beat the opponent up real quickly. And then to help with that, it's trying to keep a lot of the cards it'll draw. We'll try to keep the opponent off tempo with like Whirlwind, or with like Fuku stealing their stuff. And since you draw so many cards, you'll have access to Fuku a little bit more often, which can help steal some games. And actually, Hiryoku's deck, interestingly enough, is also playing 2 Yesmo, which I think is really cool. Solid tech, because it's able to, whatever your opponent has, you'll steal their best thing. The Yesmo will die fairly often if you need it to, or it just works as additional charge damage from hand that does not require you to have 10 cards in hand. So it works as like late game top end. Maybe you can play like a Yesmo, you can play a Fuku, like both at the same time, and just steal a win like that. A lot of damage can come from this, especially with like what kind of real, like you could do the Thunderilla. I guess actually this wouldn't work, but you could do the Electrolash. You could play something like a Fuku, and you can play a Trippy Fuse all in the same turn if you have enough cards in hand, which is just an insane amount of damage from hand. It's like over 20 for sure. Could be more than 30. Could be closer to 30 depending on what you steal with the Fuku. Yeah, I haven't tried this Overwhelm or the Supercharged deck yet, but it looks really cool. I definitely should give it a shot sometime soon. Let's see, who do we have next? This is going to be the 3 seed and the 6 seed. So we got Big C and Ruthless Reg. And I actually haven't looked at these decks at all yet, I don't think. They're both playing the Tirok, they're both playing the Vroom. A lot of them playing a lot of the cards from the standard package. It looks like Big C is going pretty heavy on the draw, playing 2 Cream Puffs, a Business. He's playing a Pyrochilla. There's a lot of stuff in here. A Brumella. Huh. 1 Craig. A lot of 1-ofs in this deck. 1 Elk Antler, 1 Updawa, 1 Oak Warden. That's interesting that there's only 1 Elk Antler, but the Oak Warden to go into as well. This deck's got a lot going on in it. I mean, Big C got to third seed, so it works, you know. It gets there. I wonder why. I've seen a lot of people do this. I wonder why people choose to play the Brumella over the Mechwing. Because the Mechwing just has 1 additional point of stats. Like, Mechwing is a 3-9, which is getting you 9 points of stats. This Brumella is a 4-4, which is only getting you 8. So, like, to me, I would just rather play the thing that's giving me numerically more stats. But, I don't know. I guess the idea is maybe, like, there's so many Firons going around, but Firon would still kill the Brumella, too. I don't know. I don't get it. Ruthless Reg. His list is, again, playing a lot of that standard core package. He's going up into the 2 Elk Antlers. He's playing the 1 Vomenticle. He's playing the 2 Barricanes. He's playing the Updawas. He's playing 2 Ochos, too. I really like the 2 Ochos. I think this card is one of the few cards from Gen 2 that made it, boys, and it's like still pretty good in this format. Firon being like the king of that. Firon is the best card from set 2, I think, right now. There's still some other good stuff. I think it's crazy that that Boopasnoot is seeing absolutely no play, as well as the Aquafluffle. I think actually Aquafluffle's value in this format has gotten a lot better, because now you can use it to search out the Hydroblast, and there's a lot of things in this format that you can hit with Hydroblast, with the Elk Antler and the Updawas and stuff like that. Let's see what's next. One interesting thing about Ruthless Reg's list is it's got the 1 Incindistare. I haven't seen this card do all too much. Usually when I see my opponents play this, I'm kind of happy to see it because I get whirlwinded a lot of the time. I'm not too crazy about this card, but I'd be curious to know how it worked out for Ruthless Reg in this tournament. I mean, he did better than me in this tournament so far. Day 2 is later today, so I can still redeem myself, but I don't know. We'll see. And let's see, our final list, just to close things out, is a list by Winty. Winty is sitting at rank 8 on the leaderboard at the moment. And this is a cool list that he submitted. I asked for a lot of lists for different people, and he was one of the people to submit one. And what I like about this list is he has embraced the eggs. He's gone with the teal, he's gone with the white, and he's gone with this strong package of cards he can evolve with the oak. He's got 2 Oak Wardens, he's got the 2 Barricanes, the Updawas, the Elk Antlers. So just these eggs early on can just immediately pose a massive threat. And just a turn 2 Oak Warden is just insane. And that is a possibility with this deck. Or they deal with the egg and it can drop something really big once again. So I think this list is pretty interesting. I haven't played it, but I definitely can see it doing pretty well. It's got a lot of does it have the Floor Dragon too? No, it doesn't have the Floor Dragon, I don't think. It does have the Voidra. He is playing that. I guess there isn't a ton of space for the entire... What of this package did he cut? Did he cut anything? He's playing the Room, he's playing the Timbers, he's playing this. I think he is still playing the majority of the core, if not the whole thing, actually. And then just found a lot of space for some other interesting things. There's a lot going on. I mean, this core that I have here is 19 cards, so there's still 16 cards to wiggle around and do a lot of different things with it. Yeah, this is a cool list. I like what he's got going on here. And I hope this was helpful. I hope between all these lists, you'll definitely find something you can play. If you're a new player and you're looking for something budget, play this double B budget deck, or this list by Hiryoku also looks pretty cool because it's got the Yesmo. I don't think double B's list has the Yesmo. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like button, all that stuff. Subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. And if you're buying packs of Champions TCG cards, you can use my promo code, which would be promo code MFer at checkout when you're getting gems, and you'll get 10% off, and that would help me out. So I'd appreciate that as well. Thank you, and have a great one. See y'all soon. Bye.